In today's video, I'm going to talk to you about the wonder that is traveling to academic conferences. I know what you're thinking, traveling to academic conferences? In the age of COVID, we're all stuck here logging into these week-long Zoom sessions so we can present to people sitting at the other side of a screen. But a long time ago, we used to actually be able to get up, get on a plane, and go to an actual conference somewhere. And some people considered it a perk of the job because they got to travel to get their research. So it was a nice thing. I know I personally have been able to visit a few cities and states I had never been to because of academic research conferences, but that has all changed. However, it wasn't always good. And there are quite a few humorously disastrous stories that I want to share with you. And today I'm going to talk to you about three of those. So number three, the first conference experience that I want to talk to you about is one that actually took place right before I was starting my PhD program. It was a conference that took place during the summer of 2016 after I'd been accepted to the doctorate program, but before I had officially started. It was based off of some research that I've been a part of uh, called JCAF, or Jewish Court of All Time, with some colleagues at the University of Cincinnati. So I was excited to go. This was my very first conference, and it was at a Jewish education conference in Baltimore, Maryland. As I mentioned, one of the perks of traveling is going to new places that I'd never been to, and I'd never been to Baltimore. I never even been to the state of Maryland. This was my first academic conference. Let's just say that expectations were high, and I was really excited to go. However, things would quickly sour. So being a broke pre-doctorate student, I took the cheapest possible flight I could find to get to Baltimore, which had me arriving at about 11:30 p.m. with my conference having to be up at 7 to start the next day. So I was already getting there late with little time for actual rest. So by the time I got to the hotel, having to Uber over from the airport to the hotel, it was around midnight. Now, my advisor had called the hotel and said, hey, I have a doc student. He's going to be arriving pretty late, just giving you a heads up, and he should be able to check in even though the reservation is under my name. So, great, things should be settled. However, I get there, and when I go to check in, they had given away my hotel room, citing the fact that I arrived late and that they assumed that I was canceling, even though we had told them completely contrary information. So I don't know what to do. I go knock on my advisor's room and explain the situation to her, and she gets livid. Like, she's not like the nicest person in the world, and she was just irritated, to say the least, at this hotel staff. Like, what are we supposed to do? And she's trying to handle the situation. I'm just sitting there awkwardly. And so they decide that they're going to try and find me a hotel room and will cover the cost of the hotel room and will put me somewhere else. But the thing is, like, this conference was going on and all the hotels in the area were booked. It took them forever to find a hotel room that was open for me. And they finally do, and they had to they agreed to ride me over there, and they said that they'll pick me up in the morning to take me back to where I need for the conference. So the entire thing is a mess. So I finally get there. By the time I'm in, it's well past 1. And the only room that was open was, of course, right next to the elevator. So all night I'm hearing this ding, ding, ding of the elevator literally like right outside of my room. So that kept me from getting any sleep. I'm finally catching some Z's, sawing some logs, and around 4, let's just say that my neighbors were a little excited to see each other. So that woke me up. That's a great thing to be woken up to. And finally get back to sleep just in time for my alarm clock to go off so I can get ready, get up earlier than I originally planned, which was already early, so I can call the hotel, have them get a shuttle to me so I can be taken to where I actually need to be. So, give my presentation. I have no rest. I'm tired. Long day of traveling, no sleep the night before, and then I don't know anybody there. And because I'm in a completely different hotel, it's not like I can even stick around and network because I have to rely on the hotel there to shuttle me where I need to be. So gave my presentation, was promptly taken back to my hotel room, and sat there by myself for the rest of the day until I had to wake up and be taken to the airport to go home. So my first conference experience was a little bit of a dud, to say the least. So number 2 on my list of worst conference experiences, and this one falls on the AECT Summer Symposium, which is one of my favorite conferences. So it has nothing to do with the conference itself. It just happened to be a bad experience because of things far outside of their control and power. So this was the Summer Research Symposium of 2019. I had a chapter in for the roundtable that was actually part of my dissertation. So I was looking forward to going. This was actually the first year that I was going completely by myself to represent the team. So I was stoked and ready to go. Again, being the broke doc student, this makes travel accommodations a little tricky. And especially to further complicate things is at the university where I got my PhD at is they don't fund student travel during the summer months. And if you have money left over from the year before, it goes away. So anything that you do during the summer, if you hold on to it, you can get reimbursed in the fall semester when it starts. But it does cut into your travel funding, which is already next to nothing. So typically speaking, when I go to the AECT Summer Symposium as a doc student, I was typically paying for it out of pocket. And this was again the case. So setting the stage. So I decided to get an Airbnb because even with the discounted conference rates, the hotel was outside of my budget. I just could not afford it. It was in Bloomington, Indiana, and I was in Cincinnati, Ohio. So that was not too far of a drive. It's about a 3-hour drive. So I decided to just drive there, save some money on the flight. And I got an Airbnb that I thought looked nice. And my plan was that I could just Uber or walk over to the conference hotel. And it was only a couple miles away. And the reviews were pretty high and said that it was a simple room, but it was relatively comfortable. I don't know who lied in those reviews. So I drive my 3 hours through the cornfields that is most of Ohio and Indiana. And I get there. And when I go to check into my Airbnb, the host is nowhere to be found. I call, nothing. I call again, nothing. I text, nothing. Call, nothing. Finally responds and says that there is a key on a table outside. So I'm like, great, that could have been useful information in advance. So I find the key, but this is part of a house. I don't know where the heck the room technically is. And I'm trying all these side rooms. I'm trying like all these doors and entryways. The key's not working. Cannot find my way. And I'm again calling this person, not picking up. And I finally like walk into the backyard and down a hill. And there is this little entryway that is like hidden going into the basement at the very back. I had to like go down this steep grassy hill and around the back of this property. And I find it and it's in the basement, which was not indicated in the Airbnb listing, but whatever, it's fine. I get in and like I'm 6'2" and I had to duck the entire way through. It was literally in a creepy basement, like this old fashioned bedrock basement that some dude threw a bed in and a dirty couch and a broken coffee table. So I'm in the bedroom, if you want to call it that. And for some reason, this person has also decided that I need a picture of half-naked women hanging above the bed that they're renting out to people. So, okay, that's cool. It's just utter disbelief. I took pictures immediately and I sent it to like my PhD advisor, and like we still joke about it to this day, like absolutely terrible. And I sent a picture of the poster to my friend and she's like, oh, hold on. And she found it for on Amazon, and she's like, "I'm gonna order this for you so you can feel at home when you get back at home." So like, we were able to turn it into a joke, but it was absolutely horrible. I was checking the place for bed bugs. It was disgusting. It was like a 2 out of 10, absolute dump of a place. Um, but whatever. I go to the conference. Conference is fine. Having a good time. I make dinner plans. And then I get back to my room after the first day of the conference is over and find out that my dog that I had dropped off at the vet was not going to make it. Took a complete 360, went from being a perfectly healthy dog one day to having some mild symptoms to having to put down. So I had to like contact Brad at AECT and be like, "Hey, I am going to be driving home. Sorry about that." And I'm bolting out of there, and I'm driving 3 hours knowing that the second I get back into town in Ohio that I am going to be watching a dog be put down. So great. So that's number 2 of worst conference experiences ever. Bad lodging and a dead dog. And now number 1 of the absolute worst conference experiences that I have had. Again, I don't know what it is, but these ACT summer symposiums just love to give me a bad time. And again, it's nothing to do with the conference itself. They're always lovely. So it was my very first year in the doc program. Is the summer after. So I guess it was the 2017 research symposium. It was for the Journal of Formative Design and Learning, and I was putting together a paper that would be my very first author paper. Would allow me to hit the candidacy requirements to go up for my comprehensives, and I was being mentored through this writing process from my advisor, and I was just pumped to go to it. Now it was in Jacksonville, Florida, a place that I will never associate with anything positive because of this conference. So I get there, everything's going fine. I'm taking that Allegiant flight again, being broke, taking that Allegiant flight, being 6'2", sitting on a slab of rock with no room to stretch, and already not a great experience, but it's fine. And my advisor paid for the hotel room, which is really awesome. So I was all set for having some actual amenities this time. I wasn't sleeping in a basement with half-naked photos. So it was actually like a nice place. So it was all good to go. And I'm going to the conference. Everything's going all right. Doing that, the formative evaluations of these papers by having these round tables and cycling through the day, and like it was absolutely lovely. However, my advisor had things to do. He was only staying for a set period of time, so he left after the second day, and I still had one more day left, and this is where things take a turn. So as I mentioned earlier, people at my university did not get funding during the summer. So all my funding was out of pocket for anything here. Now my advisor had the hotel rooms paid off for, which was really great. But because of the flight situation, I could not afford the flight that would leave the day after the conference, or the day of the conference ending. I had to wait until the next day, the day after the conference ended. Yeah. And I obviously did not have the hotel paid for that extra day, and I wasn't going to say, "Hey, advisor, can you pay for this?" So I had a lot of time to kill. After the conference ended. So I ended up just going to the Jacksonville airport, and I tried to get through security, and they told me, "Nope, you cannot go through security. It's a day before your flight." Which makes sense. And if you've ever been to the Jacksonville airport, it's quite small. Like when you walk in the door, you're basically in the security line. So there's nothing to do. There's a tiny restaurant and there is a coffee shop. There are not really anything there in terms of shopping or entertainment. There's not even a lot there in terms of like places to sit or be comfortable. So I ended up going into the restaurant, sitting down, and had a couple of hour long lunch, just like sitting on my computer. I told the person I'm gonna be here for a while, and then my waitress was like, maybe you should just try and go through again. And I was like, you know what? Why not? So I waited and I kept an eye out like a hawk, like, and I waited until that TSA agent left and a new TSA agent came up. And I decided, let's try this again. So I go through the line, and this person doesn't check the date on my ticket and lets me through. So I'm through security, and I'm now actually like in the terminals and at the gates, and there's a little more to do. There's some shops and other restaurants and things that I can actually amuse myself with, and I can sit down and be comfortable. So I decided to take a nap. So I'm laying on the floor in a hoodie, taking a nap, and I wake up at like 7 p.m. and I did not realize that everything in a airport shuts down at like 7 p.m. So by the time I wake up, all the restaurants are closed, all the shops are closed, and my flight is not for some time. Long story short, I ended up stuck in the Jacksonville airport for about 16 hours, just sitting there. Could not sleep, could not get comfortable after that. I ended up just riding the moving escalators. I just rode them back and forth for hours, playing Pokemon Go, hatching egg after egg, taking all the gems. That's all I did, was just ride that thing. I could have been writing. I should have been writing. I wrote about 2 pages of a paper that would end up being part of a lit review down the road. So I guess it was productive. And then at about 2:30 in the morning, they kicked me out of the airport because I guess they finally realized that I was not someone getting off a flight, walking out, and the airport technically closed. So they kicked me out of the airport and told me I could not come in until 4:30. So I got kicked out, and I laid down underneath an art exhibit in the front until the airport opened again, and then I was allowed to go through security for the 3rd time, and had to wait several hours before I could take a flight and get home. Um, yeah, not great, not great. Jacksonville Airport still haunts my memory. So that is my number 1 worst conference experience.